So, good morning and welcome. I think I've introduced myself and Jirachima have introduced himself. We are the two major resource persons. We are all engineers. Everybody here in this platform is an engineer. And we got recently, not recently, 2 years ago, we got certified by the American Association of Energy Engineers as certified energy auditor, proudly sponsored by the GIZ, the Nigerian Energy Support Program. And we've also attended various training. We've been in touch with GIZ. We are working collaboratively with them in terms of scaling out the knowledge of energy efficiency and energy auditing. So what we are doing today is part of not just our passion, but also our effort to assist engineers coming to the energy transition. You know, people have been hearing about energy transition, renewable energy, and so on and so forth. So this training is part of 3 modules that can help you to become either an energy editor or energy manager. And those modules are, one of them is what we are having today, which is energy auditing and energy efficiency. The other one, we had it like 2 months ago. Some of you, 50% of you here also participated, and now it's on renewable energy. Then the 3rd module is on cost and economic analysis or business appraisal, business investment appraisal. So whichever word you want to use. In our school days, we call it engineering economics. They all mean the same thing. So with these 3 key areas, one can comfortably say that I am an energy expert. I'm telling you, even though it's not a one-off thing, but it's something you now need to improve yourself, diversify your knowledge, acquire more skill. But in terms of the basics, you're going to get them in the next 5 weeks. And of course, in the previous 5 weeks you've attended. Then we've now tried to embed the costs into 2 of them, because you can't just ask people to attend the whole 3 courses at the same time before we can say you've acquired enough proficiency. So that's why we split it into 2, and then make sure that the cost components all came into the 2. So, introduction to energy efficiency. Some of the abbreviation you'll be meeting in this presentation. I'll be skipping a lot of slides. I don't read slides generally. So this is the objective of the training. This is why every one of us here is an engineer. The idea of this training is to bring you to speed to what is happening in the energy sector, vis-a-vis becoming an auditor, knowing much of what you need to know to have the ability to audit either a residential, commercial, or industrial apartment, to equip you with those key sets that you need to proudly say, I can carry out energy auditing. So you can define energy auditing in various ways, but it's good to define it in terms of the purpose. You know, try to come in with the purpose. The purpose of energy auditing is to identify energy conservation and cost-saving opportunities among consuming system and site practices. Now, at our level of professional attainment, we don't need to start cramming things. But suffice it to say that anytime you think of energy auditing, 3 key things must come to your mind. You want to identify how to save energy. That is energy conservation. Energy conservation, there are 2 broad areas. It's either you conserve energy or you implement energy efficiency measures. It is not every time that you need to implement energy efficiency. Sometimes it's just by conserving energy, right? This morning, I off my external light by 6 a.m. That's cool. Somebody will leave his till 9 o'clock. It doesn't make sense, right? And probably I on it by, let's say, 7 o'clock instead of on it by 5. You know, there are some measures you put in place, right? Then I can decide to know when to use my appliances based on energy availability. And then, you know, those measures you put in place without buying or implementing extra measures are what we call energy conservation. So when you talk about energy auditing, the first thing is identification is important. Then when you identify them, you cost them. Identifying costs and identify energy conservation, then also energy saving, then you know where to save the energy. And then finally, you cost them. because that is the most important aspect. If you don't cost them and know their costs, your clients will not place value on it. It is only when you tell somebody, if you do this, you save such amount of money, the person will take it serious. So, but in generally, is a systematic procedure for the purpose of obtaining adequate knowledge of existing energy consumption profile of a building or group of building, an industrial or commercial operation, in a private or public service, identifying and quantifying the cost-effective saving opportunities, and then reporting the findings. So I omitted the last one, which is now, after costing them, you now report them. So this is how it goes. You identify, you quantify, and you report. Identify, quantify, and report. But to do this, you must have the knowledge. And that is exactly why we are here. So there are many standards in any auditing. We have the ISO standard, we have the EN standard. But irrespective of any standard you have chosen, they are all the same thing. You know, when it comes to code and standard, there are not so much difference between Euro code and PS code. It's not much difference. There's not much difference between German code and maybe Indian codes. It's just differences in terms of maybe weather conditions, maybe human conditions. Okay, somebody who said my factor of safety is 1.5. Another person will say, look, my people are not too careful. My factor of safety will be 1.6. It's just like their way. And this EU legislation are also split into different subcodes. So the purpose of auditing as an auditor, the purpose of this international standard is just to define minimum set of requirements, okay, that will help you to identify these saving opportunities, right? And then also to show you how you're going to make recommendations for improvement, and then how to report your financial, how to report the financial benefits. Okay, now, let me just give us the step-by-step approach in carrying out audits. What you have on your left is based on EN 12647. And what you have on your right is based on ISO 50002. If you take a close look at them, they are just the same, but with small variation. But these are the general way of conducting an audit. And when I say energy audits, I want you to begin to interpolate it with other auditing, general auditing. This is how it is done. Only in some instances that you have a small rigidity in them. For instance, every auditing starts with preliminary contacts. In the ISO, they call it planning, energy audit planning, right? Then the second step is your startup meeting. So preliminary contact, you want to do audit, there must be initial contact. You meet the MD, you meet the site manager, you meet the line manager, you tell him, look, I learned you are paying a whole lot from your energy bills. I think it's time we do an auditing so that let's know where we can identify, where we can improve, where we can conserve, where we can implement energy efficiency process systems. So if you look at the one on your left, which is the EN standard, after the preliminary contact, the next thing is to schedule a startup meeting. There must be a startup meeting between you and the organization. You don't just walk in and said, MD have signed me, I have collected an award letter, I have discussed with MD, managing director, and he said I should come and audit this firm. It is not done that way. So if you look at the ISO standard, it talks about opening meeting, 5.3, opening meeting. So these two steps are what an auditor should first do. You make your contact, you negotiate your pay-in, you do your man-to-man, then the next thing, you set up a meeting. In that meeting, you must have different group of people present for that meeting. You must identify people that will be relevant, people that are important for the auditing. Now, the list is inexhaustive. The list is based on circumstance, based on management organogram. But important is that the managing director, the head, must be around. That's number one. Then again, everybody down the line, down the energy system, anybody involved in the energy system must be represented. And I say this, even the security man, who is the one recording the diesel purchase, must be around. You must know, identify. That's why energy auditing is a scale. You must identify who will make you succeed and then bring him on board. The person must be present in that startup meeting. Sorry, one of us is calling me, I guess. Hello? We're in the class, chat me on WhatsApp, sir. Sorry, send WhatsApp, thank you. Send WhatsApp. We're in the meeting, we're in the training. Okay, so if you look at it very well, you'll see that the startup meeting is for you to brief the management on what you are about to do. And it's in this meeting that you make sure you buy, or let's say you call the favor of everybody. Because auditing is a complicated thing. Auditing, any kind of audit is problematic. Some people assume that you come to audit them so they can report them, they can be sacked. And this is a mistake every auditor must not do. Don't always give the people the impression that this auditing is going to witch hunt. Let it be that the auditing is for improvement. Let it be that the auditing, maybe there should be a different training for this, but I believe we're all engineers and we've practiced a lot. You must bring in the human side of it. You know, when you come for auditing, people who have skeleton in their cupboard will not want you to do the audit. The man who purchases energy and who purchases at 10,000 and claims it's 20,000 naira, when he hears about audit, his reaction will not be too good and he will not be welcoming. The man who, when they supply 100 liters of diesel, we say they supply 200. When he hears that they're auditing, he will be looking for ways to sabotage it. So there you must find a way and make sure you suit nerves. You make sure you bring everybody on board. And that is the idea behind the startup meeting. So you need to develop your own methodology of doing it. I don't know how to do it. If it means you have to buy refreshment for them or whatever, that's your own. But you must assure people that the auditing is for us to improve our energy systems and it's for the overall good of the company. Then after the startup meeting, you now go for data collection. You must collect your data. Now, this list is also inexhaustive. But suffice it to say that collecting your data, you must pass through the whole production system. Okay? You must divide your data collection in terms of segments or in terms of subgroups. Right? And when I mean subgroups, you could decide to okay, like in a typical residential house, where are the areas where energy is being wasted? Or where are the potential areas? Remember, we talk about potential energy saving. So you need to go for the main, you need to go for the juggler, you need to go for where the real thing is happening. For instance, the residential areas, if I want to do audit, I must go into my cooling system, my heating system, right? Or the general HVAC system, the ACs, the refrigerator, that's cooling, and then the heating. Then the lighting should be my last option. I know, of course, I'll go to light. So you look at all those segments and you segment them in measurement. For the data collection, you check. And also, you just don't do physical measurement also. You also look at desk work, what we call desk work. You need to collect information, data. What have they been paying? Energy bills. You need to collect energy data, go through ADC website. What have they been paying? What are the changes? You begin to look for patterns. You begin to look for what is happening, right? Just for you to have a general overview. Then after that, in based on EN standard, after data collection, you have measurements, right? While EN call it field work, ISO 50000 call it measurement plan, and then it scale it into conducting the site visits. So field work is now divided into conducting the site visit and measurement plan. In other words, you might have to go with measurement. And one of the measurement I've seen that is more common, which of course we also need to be trained on, is the use of simple ammeters and meters, general meters, right? How do you read? How do you read these meters, measure current, measure other things that will, in the course of the next lecture, you get to know what to measure, right? You measure lux, you can buy a lux meter. So there are different things, but we're not going to that now because the training, it will be in the next class, in the next topic. It might not be today. Then, after you've collected all the data, you now go to the next step, and that is analysis. And that is where the work is. And that is where you need to be trained. It's one thing to collect data, it's one thing for someone to feed you with all the data. It's another thing for you to sit down and make it make sense. And that is where your training as an engineer comes on board. We'll give you the materials, we'll give you templates, we'll give you samples. But the idea of the whole training is also for you to know how to analyze your data. Not just analyzing it. You must bring out the numbers. You must bring out the numbers. Management want to hear numbers. They want to hear amounts. They want to hear, if I spend 2 million, I will save 2 million. That is it, right? So you must analyze it. You must put it in form in a way that a layman will understand it. When I say I'm changing these CFL bulbs to energy LED bulbs or energy savers, as we prefer to call it, somebody should understand what it is. When I said I'm buying inverter ACs, I'm taking the old ACs, somebody should know what you're talking about. When you say we're going to change our fridges, we're going to change our wall unit ACs into split units, we're going to change our halogen bulbs into LEDs, we're going to change our heating into solar, whatever you want to come up with. You should put it in a way that somebody will say, assume I'm in primary school, make me understand it, right? No need doing, speaking bogus grammar or what have you, or trying to put equation in it. Just keep it simple and stupid. Okay, then after that, after analysis, so you can see the analysis is in both of them. So after analysis, you go to reporting. So why EN standard call it reporting, simple reporting? I said energy audit reporting, so they are just the same thing. Then at the end, you have final meeting. Here, call it closing meeting. So if you compare these two, they are practically saying the same thing. You do your preliminary contact or energy planning, you do your startup meeting, you do your measurements, you conduct your analysis, you do your energy reporting, you now do your closing meetings. What are your goals? Clearly identify types and cost of energy use. Understand how energy is being used and possibly wasted. One of the attributes of an energy auditor or any auditor is, would I say, ability to learn. Generally, we engineers have that issue, but I believe we are beginning to outgrow it. You must know that you don't know it all. You must know. If you come into a systems, you don't assume that I on my AC all 24 hours a day. You don't make that assumption. You ask questions. If you come to an industry application or something, you need to ask questions, right? The people that knows it more will tell you. So don't come and assume you know it all. So you need to have an understanding of how the energy is being used or possibly being wasted. You can be asking somebody who uses what do you call it? Heating system. Like I know an audit where I went to in a kitchen, a hotel, and the person in the kitchen told me that the water heater is on 24 hours a day. Yes. That anytime they need hot water, they just go and turn it on and take hot water. And the heater is 24 hours on. And I can see, okay, it has thermostat here. It's okay. Thermostat is okay, right? Yeah, it has thermostat, but that's not enough. That's not enough because heating is one of the areas energy is always wasted. Okay, so the next thing is your next goal is to improve operational technique. So now it's not about the equipment now. It's also how is it being operated. I know of factories and industries, they'll leave a conveyor running for hours when there's no production. And maybe there's no speed drive, variable speed drive mechanism to make sure that when there's no production, the thing will run slowly or any other thing. So your job as the only auditor is also to look at how processes, improvement techniques, and for you to do that, you have to be widely read. That's why engineers must learning, and that's why I appreciate some of you that are in this training, because you might probably need this training, not because maybe you're going to make it or even though I encourage you to, but you have a passion to learn, and no knowledge is a waste. So you need to go and study systems and processes, compression systems, compressors, air systems, refrigerating systems. How do they work? How do they operate? And what are the improvement mechanisms? I have mentioned variable speed drives. There are other ways. I went to a house in Maitama in Abuja, and they told me that they pump water only when the sun is on. They pump water during the day so they can make use of solar. I say, wow. So this is your job as energy auditor. In addition to identifying and analyzing, also make recommendation on how to operate the systems, the equipment, and how to deploy the technology. Performance on economic analysis, that's a good one. You have to employ your knowledge of mathematics now to perform an economic analysis. The reason is that we have different auditing. I'm coming to that. But for the investment grade audit, banks are interested in the numbers, not stories. I've been telling stories, right? But we'll soon go to the numbers. So they're interested in the numbers. What is this man talking about? Tell us how much you are spending and tell us how much you are saving. That's it. And do it in a professional way. Then finally, your goal should be to develop an action plan. Responsibility, in other words, what everybody should do, timelines, and budget for implementation. So these are the goals of every energy auditor. And this is what you should have at the back of your mind when you're embarking on energy auditing. This is what I want to achieve. At the end of the day, of course, we'll come to that. You need to develop an energy policy. And those energy policy will be backed by implemented strategies. Who does what? Okay? I can tell the man at the gate, from now henceforth, every diesel that is supplied, you must be present and measure it. Then record it and send it via SMS to so place. That is one of them. And so on and so forth. So let us look at the pros. There are two types of auditors, right? Auditors, not auditing. In auditing, there are three types: walkthrough audits, grade 2 audits, and investment grade audits. We'll still come to that. But there are two broad sense of doing auditing: getting somebody internally, getting somebody externally. Some of us in our place of work, after this course, they're going to call you and said, now that we have trained you, we have paid this money for you guys for this training, you have to come and do audit for us. You are part of us, you're part of the company. We want you to come and carry out an internal audit for us. You can also decide to go see it as a business model. You print your papers, print your company profile and say, okay, I'm now an auditor. You approach your friends and say, okay, I'm coming to audit your company, tell your MD and CEO. And now they engage you. You are coming as an external person. So it can either be internal auditing or external. Now, both of them have their pros and their cons, right? They have their challenges, they have their advantages, and they have their disadvantages. So it is good for us to know, so that when you are part of a company and the same company is asking you to do audit, That means you're coming as an internal person. It has some problems. It has some good side too. Then if you're also going as an external person, it also has a good side. So for one, let us discuss the internal auditing. And internal auditing is when I'm working for PZ as their manager and they send me for training and they ask me to conduct auditing. So the first advantage is that I'm already familiar with the company. I'm familiar with the production processes. I'm familiar with where their energy meters are. I'm familiar with who takes care of the record of the diesel. I'm familiar with the person who pays the energy bills. So all I need to do is approach them and tell them, boss, please give me the data I need, or come with me, we have work to do. The second one is that you know about data availability, you know what is present, you know what is not present, you know what to ask for. You cannot be asking for a 10 years record when you know that the company have not been run transparently. Then the next one is the cost is cost effective. If you run an energy audit, internal energy auditor, it will be difficult for you to ask them to pay you because you're already on salary. So it is difficult to say, pay me the amount of money. They'll laugh at you. So, having said that, somebody should mute him or herself. Okay. What are the disadvantages if you are internal person? Number one is that they will think it's business as usual. I mean, they might even make jest of you. Which day did you become an auditor? So they will treat it with levity. That's number one thing. Number two, you stand the risk of not asking too many questions so that you don't go and indict somebody, indict your upstream line manager or your boss. There's some questions you ask and your boss will suspend everything. Yes, that can also be a disadvantage because you won't have the flexibility to ask critical questions. Then, because of the two mentioned disadvantages, the quality of your output will be debatable. Because you are afraid to ask the security man or the man buying diesel how much he buys diesel every month, you might not be able to get the appropriate record of diesel. Because you are afraid or you don't want to step on somebody's toes, therefore, you will not ask the facility manager, if you're not already the person, why the bills are on the high side. So these are some of the few disadvantages when you come as an internal person. Then let's look at the external persons. For the external, number one, you're going to have a high quality. Yes. You're going to have a high quality job. Number two, you're going to ask critical questions. And it's because of the critical question you're asking that you are going to have a high quality work. And then your questions will be based on outside view. If you have knowledge of how the company works, it might influence your ability to ask the right questions. But if you are coming as an outside auditor, there's no boundary condition. You can ask anything. In fact, you can ask for the phone number of anybody, in quote, to verify whatever. You can even ask the ADC people to come and install a check meter. Or, I mean, you are flexible. That's just the point I'm trying to make. Then the other thing is that the disadvantage is that it is less cost effective. And what it means is that you have to be paid well. So if you are calling an external person to do audit, you get ready to pay the person very well, because the person is going to take it as a full-time job, and he's going to deploy his meters, he's going to deploy all his resources at his disposal and make sure that he gets the job done. Then again, the disadvantage of being an external person is that it might require you some time to understand how the system functions. It might require you some time to understand how the system functions. The reason being that you are not familiar with the system, you're an external person, and maybe you're not a core, maybe electrical engineer, for instance, right? Or somebody who's already well trained in this aspect. So you need time to balance up and be able to get along with what is happening. Then again, which is the big one of the disadvantage, is that you require the support of the facility manager. And if you don't get that support, it can be a big problem. If you don't get the support of the facility manager and then interface with him and reach a compromise and how to go about it, as well as reassuring him that you're not after his job, then you're going to have a smooth process. I'm sorry I'm taking our time. It's just for us to get to understand these things very well. There are 3 levels of audits based on whether ISO or European standards. Number 1 is level 1. If you don't want to call it level 1, you call it walkthrough energy audits. Number 2 is level 2 audit, or you call it detailed audit. Number 3 is level 3, or you call it investment grade audit. What are the differences? You cannot have level 2 without level 1. You cannot have level 3 without level 2. That's just the major thing about it. For the walkthrough audit, it's a very simple thing, and that's most of what people are doing, because it does not cost a lot of money, and it is simple to audit. So for some of us, we're going to start with walkthrough audits. As the word implies, you walk through, familiarize yourself with what they are doing, you do small desktop analysis, you generate your energy intensity load, then you make recommendation. And recommendation will only be low cost or no cost. Then you write your report with a broad conclusion. So I come to your house, I see that you are still using CL5 bulbs. Okay, please change these bulbs. Change to LED. Your fridge is 10 years old. It's already showing sign of failure. There's already ice accumulating inside and everything, even when you keep defreezing. Okay, there's leakage. Go and fix it. When I look at your heating system, you're using 1960 water heater. I'll tell you, okay, this is no longer in vogue. Please change it. Then I could see that they are leaving your AC on, even when nobody's in the room, or the windows on. So these are what walkthrough does. Let me just summarize it that way, because we don't have time. So it is simple, and so forth and so forth, so on and so forth. Now, let me say this before I continue this training. Many people are joining this training because somebody sent you the link. Please, this training costs 50,000 naira. At the end of this training, I will encourage you to make the payments. Please, after today, I will sign you off. So if you have not paid, except for those who attended the previous training, they will give a discount. Please, if you are attending because somebody sent you the link and you just entered as a typical Nigerian, I'm sorry about using that word, but you are not allowed to attend next week. Thank you very much. All right. Now, for the detailed energy audits, you simply follow up from the level 1 audits. But this time around, you're going to be comprehensive. You're going to do logging You're going to do metering. You're going to do measurements. You're going to do review of designs of the place, of the installation. You're going to look at the operation and the maintenance. You're going to do a detailed energy load analysis. You're going to take time and identify areas where there's inefficiencies, where there are losses. Then you need to generate a computer consumption index. Production units, wastage, lab units, this unit, that unit, what are they consuming? You need to sit down and do a detailed analysis of the whole processes in a layman's language. Then you need to generate load apportioning. In other words, you apportion the loads, because when you are implementing measures, you might not take it all, and that's why people fail it. But Nigerians are beginning to understand it, and thank God for the advocacy. You see, if you're deploying a solar system in your house, most times I will encourage you to take out the ACs, and some hotels are beginning to learn it. Yes, they will tell you, it's only when there's NEPA, there's AC. When there's GEM, that's how they put it, right? So, because when you are putting ACs in the whole network, the number of panels you need might be beyond what number of batteries you need, might be beyond what you anticipate. So you need to apportion the loads. Oh, okay, this is it. Okay, I'm going to put these solar panels to take care of my lighting, right? And then 2 batteries, 3 batteries. Then for the AC, okay, I'm not ready for ACs. If there's no light, okay, I'll deal with it. I'll deal with the heating with the temperature. So, and so on and so forth. So you'll be able to do this. So you don't go and make recommendation that will be difficult to implement. Then you need to provide what we call energy performance indicators or key performance indicators. In other words, these are the areas that are most important. These are the areas that we need to look into, or these are the areas we need to spend money on, and so on and so forth. Then in your recommendation, you recommend 3, you are supposed to make 3 recommendations, unlike 1 for walkthrough audits. You need to recommend low-cost measures, medium-cost measures, and high-cost measures. The problem we have sometimes is that engineers will go and make high-cost measures, recommendations, and once your client sees it, they say, people keep consuming diesel. So you need to give him low cost. Okay, this is low cost. You don't want to spend money. Do this, your energy will come down by 5%, 10%. Medium cost. Okay, implement this, your energy will come down by 20%. High cost. Okay, implement this, your energy will come down by 40, 30, 50%. So that he will choose which one that suits him in terms of his readiness, in terms of his budget, in terms of the feasibility of implementation. Then finally, you're going to write a beautiful report and probably make a presentation. So these are the 2 major differences between level 1 audits and level 2 audits. Before we go to the level 3 audits, please, as Chima rightly said, if there's any questions, please go to the chat box and do it. And then you can also use the signs. What do they call it again? Reactions. If you go where you have 3 dots at the end of your bar, you see reactions. If you have a question, you just raise your hand, right? There are many reactions. If you love what you had, you can say, I love it. You can clap hands, you can raise your hand, you can just raise your hand and I will call your attention. Thank you. Then, for the investment grade audits, we call it bankable audit. These are the ones you take to investors. These are the ones that should have the numbers. Now, let me just say this. Everything about level 1 audits is inside level 2. And everything about level 2 is inside level 3. So all things I've said about level 2 audits, you will do the same thing in level 3 audits. Only 2 things are different. Those 2 things that you are going to conduct strong financial analysis, and then you have to carry out environmental impact analysis or do an environmental impact assessment. In other words, there is a social environmental and social audit or report or factors that will come into investment grade. This is what happens, gentlemen and ladies. It is one thing for you to implement, carry out energy auditing. And that's something we don't do in Nigeria. There are some programs of government that they know is a waste of energy, but they are doing it to provide jobs. Yes, it's called social impact. There are some things, like sometimes when I go to the streets, I see women sweeping the streets. If I try to complain, I remind myself, does those women need those jobs? Because it's very easy to go to Germany or go to Europe and buy sweepers. Boom, to sweep the streets. But now having said that, that should not be the type that endangers their life anyway. But these are just what I want to say. There are some things you look at sometimes after doing your audit. You must justify that this will not have any justification on the company. Let's say I have a company that has a 5 kVA generator and our load is 3 kVA, and we're giving a community around us 1 kVA. You don't just come and say, no, that's a waste. No, no. We are doing it because as a CSR, as a corporate social that's allowed. So in the grade 3 audits, you must prove that you're not taking away that kind of CSR. I'm just giving an idea, but there could be other things that you need to prove in the level 3 audits to make bank. Also, you need to introduce the concept of green energy. You need to prove that some level of CO2 is being saved, or there's carbon credits in the level 3 audits. You need to, after your auditing, after coming up, we will show you how to do that anyway in the course of the class. You need to prove that by we saving this energy, or by we deploying solar, wind, or thermal energy, we are saving so number of CO2 that will have been generated by virtue of implementing normal conventional energy system. So the investment grade audit is the highest level of audit, is the number one that should have the net present value, the payback period, the payback time, have the sensitivity analysis done, have every kind of analysis possible in an audit. You can include charts, graph, pictures, and what have you, because it's the highest level of auditing. So these are the 3 types of auditing, and I believe I have done justice in terms of breaking them down to their to the lists, duty and what to expect. Okay, so in the next slides, I will try to de-emphasize what I have said here, and that is what you're going to see in the next slides that will follow. But before I do that, I don't know if anybody have anything to say, or if there is any input. Is there any question? Is there any input? Is there anything on what we've done so far in terms of introducing the levels of audits and the types of audits? Any question? Any input? We have somebody that have done audits in the past. You did something different from what you said. Is there a different angle? Is there a different perspective to it? Okay.
Hello, Engineer Uche.
I greet you, sir.
Yeah, Chima speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, so while you were talking about the audit and then the tools and all of that, I have few of the tools that I just quickly want to show to the participant. I know some of them would have already been familiar with the tools, but just for the benefit of those who have not had the opportunity of seeing these tools, some of them, not all, just few of them that I have available, I just want to show it to the class, and then just for them to also get that familiarity, some of the tools. So if you permit me, I'll just go ahead and then
go ahead.
Some of them. Okay, thank you so much. So while you are talking about the,
you can also display. I've made you co-host. Go ahead.
No, I have them just display. I just want to show them.
Okay. Okay. Hello, Engineer Chima.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm trying to. I don't know if my video is showing.
It's not showing yet. Let me stop mine. Yeah, you can go now.
Okay.
Just share your screen.
So it's not on my laptop. So yeah, I just have them here. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to see I can make that come out on the bigger screen. So it's how do I do that?
Maybe I'm afraid
No. Let me.
No, share your screen. No, share your screen and then use your computer screen to display it on your screen on your camera. That's it.
Sorry, say that again.
Just put it in front of your camera. Lift it up. That should be a multimeter. Put it in front of your camera, your laptop camera.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in front of my laptop.
Hold it in your hand, yeah. As if you are showing your face. As if, I don't know.
Just a moment.
Like I can see you before now when you are talking about seeing you. So let it be in front of you, sort of. Good.
Okay, so it's up right now. Okay. Yeah. So this is a clamp meter. This is a 3-phase clamp meter. There are also the ones of single phase, but this is a 3-phase clamp meter. So with this, I can go to the not dashboard, the
DB.
distribution panel, the DB, yeah, and clamp the 3 phases and then read the voltage, the current, the whole, all the energy parameters, the power factor, the apparent power, the real power. I can measure everything. I can read everything from this device. So this is a clamp meter. It can also log. It has a software adaptability that I can log over a period of time. So just to, and I'm sure most of us are already familiar with something like this, but what is not very common is this 3-phase. What you can easily find in the market is a single phase. You may hardly find this 3-phase in the market. So it's very, very important. And something that you find very handy is this watts meter. With this, you can easily measure the electrical or energy consumption of any appliances in the home. You can measure what your TV is consuming. You can measure your AC. Like I have this connected to my AC. So I can easily monitor when my compressor is on and when it is off and how much energy my AC is consuming. So this is very handy if you're doing some indoor or in-house audit, not for industrial anyway. So for industries, you can use this, but for in-house energy audit, you can easily use this. Just plug it and plug the appliances here. You can see all the readings here. I have 2 of it. This is another one of it. Okay, I can plug this, connect any of appliances, and you see. And the funny thing is that you will begin to realize that everything we do have energy footprint. So if you have this connected to your TV and you begin to increase the volume of your TV, you find out your power will begin to increase as well. Not many of us understand that, but that is how much energy this is how much everything we do has energy impact, right? As little as increasing the volume of your TV set has energy impact. So these are very handy to monitor energy. And this is lux meter to measure the amount of light that is coming out from a bulb. Okay, so this is a lux meter. And then, of course, many of us are familiar with this. This is infrared temperature sensor measurement. During the COVID-19 time period, almost every facility have this to measure temperature. Now, this is infrared. It's non-contact. You don't need to have a contact to have this. And then this is a logger. This is temperature and humidity logger. I can drop this in a facility or in an office space, and then over time, I'll come out and see how the temperature has moved. So if I'm running a cooling system in that facility, I can monitor to see how that temperature has dropped. I can now measure it against the energy that has been consumed to achieve a certain level of cooling, as well as the humidity. So this is a humidity logger. So on my wall here, you see another temperature sensor. So this is a sensor. I have it here. Whatever reading that is showing here, I can pick up that reading.
Sorry, no, you're not audible.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So like I said, this is a temperature sensor I have on my wall here. So like I said, this is a sensor. It has reading, although it's very tiny, you might not be able to see it. But the good thing is that I can I can pick this reading from anywhere I am in my house through this other device. This is a desktop device. So this desktop now can show me two temperature readings. It can show me the readings of this sensor, and it cannot show me the reading where I place this other device. Okay. So these are just basic things, because when you become an energy auditor, you have to pay close attention to data, to details. Temperature, electrical parameters, all of these details are very, very important. So these are just some of the tools that I have handy. There's a whole lot of energy audits too, but this is just one that I have available with me now that I feel that, okay, I should just share it with the class. Okay, so the good thing about energy is that, I mean, it's quantitative. I mean, you need to deal with a lot of numbers. So if you don't have these tools, you'll be lost. Assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. You can only make an assumption where you cannot have, or where you're not able to read data. But try as much as possible to read data where you can. Okay, so it helps the quality of your energy audit report. So I just wanted to, share this, and so that some of us can also be familiar with some of these tools. As we proceed, if I have any other ones available, I will also share it with the class. Okay, so thank you very much, Engineer Uche. You can continue.
Thank you, Engineer Chima, and thank you for that insight. I really appreciate that. And one of the things I take away from what you said, and let me say it here, if you leave your AC at 18 degrees and you leave it at 22 degrees, if you know the energy consumption difference, you will stop putting your AC at 18. People don't know about this. So Chima talk about volume on TV. So so everything has an energy footprint. So when you come to your facility, you can decide. That's why in some big organization, let me just give you, the facility manager will set the energy at 24 degrees. Automatic. Yes. Some people, when it's at 18, they will still open window just to make it, but that is, you are consuming energy. So it's not like you on your AC, then it's suddenly is consuming base energy, is consuming base energy. No, depending on the temperature, that's what you consume. I see a hand raised. Somebody raised.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello everyone.
Hafiz, I greet you, sir.
How are you, sir? My name is Hafiz from CA Consultants. Okay, I just have a very, I think 1 or 2 questions. Number one, I can see the levels of energy audits. Can all of these levels be collapsed to one? Say, okay, at level 2, can I carry out an audit and still, meet the expectations required by a client for a level 3, whereby, okay, a detailed energy audit was carried out, and some level of investment grade audits too was also, collapsed into that level 2. All right? Or is it a must that every time you must go through level 1, level 2, level 3, or it doesn't follow that process? Do you understand what I'm?
I understand you perfectly. Thank you so much for that question. I think the 3 levels of audits, I think it basically depends on the financial resources available and the time. It's dependent on, you have to do one. Level 2 and level 3 are too close. Remember, level 2 is an embodiment of level 3. But level 1 is basically takes place, which I'm about explaining before this question came in. You do level 1 because maybe you're not being paid, or maybe it's something you, like when I did a level 1 audit, I did it because I wanted to attract, at the end of my level 1 audit, I make recommendation for level 2. Because what you might just explain, if you look at level 1, which is walkthrough audit, there are no measurements. You're not going to borrow or rent or buy an ammeter or a multimeter or any whatever. You're not even going to install any energy meter. So it's very simple. You can do it in 1 day. You can do it, what is 1 day? You can do it in 2 hours. Engineer, you understand me? But level 2 is when maybe your clients have told you, I'm going to pay you a certain amount of money and I'm ready to implement. So give me the highest quality. Then level 3 is when your client have told you, look, this is a World Bank project. This is a green IFC project or whatever, or a big organization project. And is going for investment. They are ready to spend the money. Like CBN, I don't know, I was talking with somebody, CBN spends 60 million every month in energy bills, or 50 or so, right? And they might appoint a new CBN governor who says, no, I want to spend only 30 million. So I'm ready to spend 5 or 10 million to carry in a good energy audit, and I'm going to rewire, I'm going to turn the whole place upside down just for me to save 30 million every month. So it's not like you have to do this, and no, you have to pick one. It's either you want to do a walkthrough energy audit, you want to do an detailed on energy audit, or you do investment grade audits. That's just it. You need to define what you are doing. You need to define what is possible in terms based on the resources available, based on the time available, and based on the negotiation and many other factors that I can't really say here. I don't know if that answers your question before Engineer
okay.
Engineer, sorry,
okay.
Engineer Kadri, sorry. Engineer, just to add to what Engineer have said on the question the previous person asked. So I just also want to add that you can do level 1 energy audits or level 2 energy audits, and then layer up level 3 energy audit based on maybe certain energy conservation measure. So for example, you could do an energy level 1 or level 2 in an industrial facility, but they feel that there's of course significant energy user. When Engineer was discussing, he made mention about coming to a facility. Maybe if you come to a house to do an energy audit, that you definitely look at the cooling system, and he also mentioned that perhaps the lighting system might be the last place that he wants to look at. The reason he's looking at the cooling system is that is a significant energy user. So you start from there, okay? Because any slightest improvement you make in that area translate into a huge amount of savings. That's why it starts from there. So you can segment your equipment. So cooling systems, lighting systems, motor systems, pump system, and all of that. You can segment them, and then based on significant energy user, that is the cooling system, for example, if the cooling system is the significant energy user, the owner, or you can recommend that the owner of the facility proceed and do investment grade audit only on the cooling system so that they can implement it, right? I mean, doing an investment grade on the cooling system means that you have to do all the financials, return of investment, simple payback, all of those investment decision-making criteria. You need to provide it so that that client can then further decide whether to make that investment or not. So it's not there's no straight bullet that that you cannot do level 3 energy audit unless you have done. Of course, you must do level 1 or level 2 to do level 3, or you can do level 3 encompasses both level 1 and level 2. That's the highest grade. That's the highest level. But what I'm saying here, based on the question that the participant asked, you can do hybrid. You can do level 1 or level 2, and then decide to narrow its particular component, not the whole entire building, but a particular component. You can only do level 3 for a particular component. So it is also possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Chima. So, Engineer Kadri,
sorry,
are you okay, sir? Engineer Fees?
No, let me just quickly add this.
May I speak, please?
I follow
because
your line
I had my hand up. Respect.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, Engineer Kadri is a follow-up question. I think it's the same person. Hafiz, are you okay with the question answer?
Yes, I'm okay, but I just want to create a scenario whereby, you know.
Can I speak to? Why is it? Please, can I just speak?
Okay,
go excuse me. Let me speak, please.
Go ahead, please.
And what I'm going to say is very simple. I believe that a walkthrough audit that you are not paid for can bring about a level 2 or level 3. Okay. So it is indeed possible. I think a level 1 audit is a very useful place to get people who don't understand or who don't realize that they need this. It's a very good place because you're not paid for it. And but it attracts attention. I can say that for sure because I've had that experience. Thank you.
Thank you. But you know, you can also be paid for it, but not much.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but you can also decide
without paying.
You can also be a business consultant by doing it and then recommend level 2 and then get paid at level 2, right?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. That's a good one. Engineer Killian, your hand is raised. And who again? Engineer Fiz, you can now ask your question again.
Can I ask now my question?
Go ahead, sir. Make it brief.
One, the difference between level 2 and level 3 is the investment audit, is the environmental impact assessment. That's one. Two.
No. The difference between the environment thing comes between 2 and 3.
Yes, that's between 2 and 3. That's what I'm saying. Between 2 and 3, the basic elements is one, the impact assessment and the MPV that you need to do for the financials. Now, my question,
the other financials is that one is just like a tip of the iceberg. Like, go ahead.
Okay, fine. My basic question lies on the fact that we will be taught the environmental impact assessment, because in trying to install maybe something a bigger megawatts of energy or power in maybe 5 megawatts, this environmental impact assessment is usually required. Will you teach us through how to do or make a report on environmental impact assessment? That's my question.
No, sir, we will not, sir. It's beyond the. Ideally, we will expect you to consult a consultant for that. But if you want to know how to do that, I think maybe you can also attend a training on that, but we don't offer that training. I don't know if you understand me.
I do.
Right. In fact, at some point, sir, and I want to say this, engineering is a teamwork. Sometimes you might have to get a second person to help you in some things. Maybe somebody who is good with finances or somebody who is good in one area that you're not good at. So when it comes to that area, you delegate that person to take care of that one. Like when we talk about the financial analysis, they are not ruled out you bringing in an accountant if you know you cannot analyze those payment data and everything, and you come up with a report for you. And but if you're attending some of our trainings, you should be good in Excel by now, and you can do all those things. Yeah. Thank you. I have another question.
All right.
Okay, you can raise your hand, sir. I think your hand is still raised. Please, any other question?
All right, sorry. Another question.
Go ahead.
Is it possible to eliminate level 1 when carrying out audits, especially this is when you know that most panels comes with digital multimeter, and you can measure energy directly from the panel. The kilowatt hour, everything can be measured. Is it possible that one just jump to level 2 directly? That's
yes, but that's a good question, sir. But if you look at it, level 2 starts with a follow-up from level 1. So it's yes and no, both ways. The reason being that no matter which of the audits you want to do, you must walk through the facility, you must familiarize yourself, whether you're an internal person or an external person. So it is difficult for you to come into a place and then you start doing 7 days data logging and metering. Then desktop analysis is something you must do before you go into level 2 audit. You need to sit down and say, where have all the information? Where are the file for the diesel consumption, diesel purchases, sorry. But we are limiting it. Remember, these are expansive and extensive processes, depending on what you are auditing. If you are this is an industrial thing, for instance, let's say I want to audit a wastewater treatment plant. Do you know I have to go to my effluent and take data of the analysis, the nitrogen concentration, the phosphate concentration, the POD concentration, the COD concentration, because that will give me an idea to know by the level of the energy input and the level of treatment, because it is garbage in, garbage out. When we went to treatment plant in Abuja, they said their effluent BOD is about 15 milligram per meter. I shouted, I said, if Germans are getting 20 and we are getting 15, it was when I now asked them what's the energy bill, they said 2 billion per year. I kept quiet. And they said they are running generator. So engineer, the thing is that there are some things in level 1 that you must take into level 2, right? And there are some you must take out. So it is not a whole thing. You can take out some components in level 1. Like you can decide not to recommend any energy low-cost measure. You've taken it out. Your type of reporting in level 1, you can take it out and go for a more detailed report embedded in the presentation. then you might decide not to generate energy intensity, and rather you go for the key performance indicators. So, but you see the first and the second one must come into level 2. So it is yes and no. That's why I say yes and no. But to put it in a more balanced form, you have to do a bit of level 1 before you go to level 2. I believe Engineer Desina have something to say.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
This question that is being raised, I think this is one of the reasons why we miss things out when we do audit. Level 1 is very important. I audit across different kind of clients, walk through, paperwork, gathering data, analyzing data before knowing what to focus on is very important, because without level 1, let's say you are auditing a very big plant or multiple location, you will not know the big consumers. You would walk through, you will end up doing level 2 for everywhere, where maybe you only need to focus on 3 aspects of the business. So, and that's a lot of work for you, and you may not be paid up to that level of effort. So, doing level 1 will allow you to know where your big win is and where your big detail is, where you need to focus on. I would advise, even when people are saying skip it, don't skip level 1. I mean, never skip that place of desktop analysis, that place of data gathering, never skip it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's a good one. So please, let's...
Yeah. Thank you very much, Engineer. Let me just also quickly add that even from the level 1, there are important discovery that you could also begin to make. So, for example, in Nigeria, we have different tariff classification. It is there in level 1, you can also look at the category of the consumer, and if it's been placed in the appropriate tariff category. If it's placed in the wrong tariff category, he could be losing money by paying for a different tariff that he's not consuming. So, for example, somebody could be a commercial business, and he's placed at an industrial level. So he's paying at an industrial tariff, whereas it's a commercial business, or it could even be a residential. So, for example, a facility could previously be used for example, commercial business, and it's now converted to a residential facility, and somebody moves in there. The tendency that the person will continue to pay the commercial tariff is there. So you can also look at the tariff, review all the tariff, and then make sure that you check everything and be sure that everything is correct. So you can do all of this at level 1. So like everyone has agreed that it's an important step not to skip. Thank you.
Good. So as a class, as a team, we have agreed that you should not skip level 1, and align with that. So Engineer Fees, please, let's leave it at that. Okay. Thank you so much. Another question. So let's quickly run through. Remember, these are intro day, so we won't go beyond our time. Next week, and let me also say that just what the team has said last time, we'll try to bring an expert in tariff to come and tell us more, because that is where you even start as an auditor. You need to investigate if your client is being changed, and then also the meter and everything. He will come and talk to us about it in one of the classes. Okay, so walk through audits, as we've said, you establish energy consumption in the organization. You estimate the scope of savings, identify likely easiest area of rotation, identify immediately the low cost and no cost savings. You know, we've talked about these low cost savings and improvements. It is not every audit that will involve level 2. Some audits might likely stop in walkthrough. Walkthrough will give you the answer you want, while others, you can take it to level 2, right? So one major thing about walkthrough audits is that your recommendation or what you're looking for will be low cost. You're looking for the hanging fruits, the low cost or the no cost. That is likely what you're going to get out of it, right? Then you also identify areas that will lead to level 2. This is very important. If you are doing level 1 audit, don't stop at level 1 if there's need for level 2. However, you are not to do level 2. So what you now do is you identify areas that need to be, for instance, for the audit, one of the audits I did for a hotel, Funny enough, they don't have an elevated tank. I don't know how they did it. Let me not say how foolish that arrangement can be. There's no elevated tank. So water is not being supplied to the rooms by gravity. It is by a pneumatic pump system. So anytime a consumer owns the tap, the pump comes up. And so you see the pump running, 2 kilowatt pump running 24 hours. Man, it was terrible. But that's by the way. So what we quickly do was to make recommendation, because it was a walkthrough audit, but which really came up with something very significant. Right? They will now say, okay, you need to provide a elevated tank. It's very important. So you can pump water one-off to the upper tank and then allow it to flow by gravity. So you don't need to be doing pumping and pumping, which is a key energy consuming appliance. Okay. So the next thing is to look at the objective, the activities, and the output of a walkthrough audit, right? Number one is you conduct site visits, that's the objective. You understand the energy consumption. You identify and evaluate the no-cost or low-cost measures. You identify more capital measures needed detailed technical assessments. That's what I said. You identify them, right? Then you identify overall management practices in regard to energy. So this is what will be your objective of your report, right? You identify where to save energy, identify areas that need more technical input, and then the areas that also need management input. In other words, there's this thing we called, I'm trying to remember the name, household keeping. Okay, part of what you recommend is for good housekeeping. And what I mean housekeeping, I'm basically talking about letting workers, staff know when to off their, if you go to some government agencies, when they are leaving their offices, the ACs are on. When the ACs are on, the windows are open. And the AC will be on 18 degrees and the window is open. So you just imagine. So you can also call people, draw their attention and say, look, this is how we're going to operate. And then nobody should on the AC when so thing is being used or so time, even though that is not possible anyway. But you can disconnect it and let them know that AC will not be on when we're on NEPA, when we're on the public supply, but AC will be on when we're on generator. Because when we're using generator, we have control, right? We know what our consumption is. But when we're on this other people, public one, you might not be able to use it, or reverse, whatever the case I will apply. Then what activity are you going to carry out? You are going to do energy balance. This might be too much of it for it. Energy analysis from baseline review. You look at the baseline review, right? For instance, if it's a hotel, for instance, when they have occupancy, high occupancy, the energy is expected to go up. But when you see high occupancy and energy is going down, or when you have low occupancy, energy is going up, that should be a red flag. And you notice and observe. Then you establish your energy performance indicators. Even though you're not going to do analysis, you're not going to take record, but you just establish them. You can also make comparison. You now make recommendation. So what are your outputs? The output is that you're going to give them a list of energy improvements, including saving opportunities and maybe a simple payback. You're going to do a rough assessment of saving opportunities and make sure that the payback is less than 2 years. We'll still come to that. We'll come into that. You can also do a summary table where measures have been identified and the cost-benefit analysis have been done. Then you do a walkthrough energy audit report that has an executive summary. Why do you need that executive summary? So that your clients will have a summary of what you have done without necessarily going through all the reports. That is the idea of the executive summary. Those of us, all of us must have written theses and all that. You know what the executive summary does. Okay, so that is that for the walkthrough audit. And the other key things you need to learn, which I don't think I need to go into in depth. So by the time we go through them, we're going to understand them further. Then for the detailed energy audits, just like the work, you conduct your detailed site visits with specific focus on some industrial sites, just like one of us said. Then you do a detailed study of subsystems. So it is a lot of work. You do a detailed of some subsystems, just as I said, heating systems, lighting systems, and what have you. Then you do a comprehensive energy audit at site level with input from the organization to identify overall management practices in regard to energy use with a direction towards implementation of an energy management system. So have you seen, you need to develop an energy management system. One of the things you need to do as energy auditor for a detailed energy audit is to come up with the idea to develop an energy policy. It's very, very important. You cannot do it in walkthrough audit, but you can come up with an energy policy, and that energy policy will pivot towards how you conserve and how you save. Now, this is the point. Sometimes to come up with energy conservation measures, you might not necessarily spend money. But when you want to save energy, I can bet you will have to deploy an energy efficiency system. And energy efficiency systems are not cheap. Renewable energy systems are not cheap. So, but they will help you save more energy. But to conserve energy, you might not necessarily save. That is why a walkthrough audit is focusing on energy conservation, or at worst case, low cost measures. So back to the activities you need for the detailed energy audit is that you should aim to save at least 10%. You should say for a walkthrough audit, you can get 5% energy savings, or you can't even save anything. It's possible. But for the detailed energy audits, if at the end of the day, we are not saving energy, then to what end? What is the purpose? So minimum should be like 10% energy savings. Then, but for you to achieve that, you must do load profiles. You must do load profiling, right? And you must implement some kind of level of monitoring processes. Monitoring. You put energy meters, just like Yachipa said, you install these things, you monitor them over time. Okay. The other slides talks about 7-day data logging. With the help of the clamp meter, you can clamp today, clamp tomorrow. After 3 days, you see uniformity, you can let go. Then you must do some level of mass balance. I've just given you an idea of mass balance, right? We have 70% occupancy rate, and our consumption is 7 kilowatts. And then we have 20% occupancy rate. Our consumption should come to 2 kilowatts. It's common sense. Then you need to do a detailed data analysis from baseline review. Now, when we talk about baselining of who we all do is for you to establish where I am and where do I want to be. There must be a baseline. And in the whole period in the month, in a year, from January to December, which of the months do you use as your baseline? Right? If you plot it in a histogram or a bar chart, you should be able to draw a line and said, in some days we consume 7 kilowatts, some days we consume 6 kilowatts, we consume 5 kilowatts. But on the average, 6 kilowatts. So 6 kilowatts becomes my baseline. I'm not able to demonstrate this, but in the next week, you'll start seeing some of these things. And some of the things that Chima just said, you will learn that. I had him mentioning lux meter, clamp meter, and what have you. Some will be surprised. What are these? Calm down. You know what they are and what parameters underpins them. So you be able to establish your baseline to say, okay, this is what our energy or which year or which month should we use as our baseline measure. Okay, those in outside Nigeria, of course, you must establish 2 baselines: the winter baseline and the summer baseline, because the energy consumptions are not the same. During winter, you must consume much energy because you're going to heat. Cost of heating goes up during winter, but during summer, not much of cooling but there could be incidents of cooling. But in our own case, it's always cooling. We hardly heat, except for few things in the house, but heating, the room heating is almost zero in this part of the world. So you must know those differences, and you must know how to establish those baselines. Another thing is that you need to establish the appropriate energy performance indicators, EMPIs, at plant areas and for significant energy users. You don't go to, for you to achieve that minimum of 10%, for me, it should be more than 10%. You achieve for 25% or 30% energy savings. For you to do that, you must go for the big boys in the house. Who are the big guys consuming this energy? That is where your emphasis must be on. And that is where your focus and attention should be. And that is where measurement must take place. Let me tell us something, gentlemen. I've seen areas where people are using ACs that have no business being in that office. I don't know if you've gone to some ministries and government agencies and you are seeing ACs that are already 20, 15 years old, that are maybe, I mean, let me not go too far, but some just have to be changed. Any AC that is 3 years old or 1 year old, you know that all of them, the major technology there now is energy efficiency, right? Especially those that come with star ratings. Well, they are trying to implement that in Nigeria, but I don't know how far they've gone. You go to buy ACs, you need to look at the star rating. Is it 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars? Depending on the star rating, you can be able to know which one is more energy efficient. So you could see that a lot of activities are embedded, but I will allow you to go back and go through these things, right? And know what is required for you. The energy savings opportunities have to be quantified. That quantification requires a lot of skills, and that is what you're going to learn in this training. Then you're going to include summary tables that will show the energy savings, the cost-benefit analysis, the payback periods, the PMP, the net present values, and all other economic indicators. Then you do your reports and the executive summary. So there are some principles that an energy auditor needs to have. Number one, any auditor has to be competent. You need to, after this training, you need to study more. You need to learn. I'm glad some of us are already into the system, but don't stop there. Keep learning, because you might be confronted with an energy system that you are not familiar with, especially when it comes to EVs now that are coming out, electric vehicles that are coming out, or some other equipment that are coming up. You need to know how to audit them also. Then, again, is confidentiality. As an auditor, you must know how to keep your mouth shut, right? Because when you say there are some comments you might make that even the person who is commissioning the auditing will become afraid that at the end of the day, this man might indict me, right? Because if you come to an organization and an auditor says that this organization is supposed to be consuming 5 kilowatts in a month, at the end of the day, they are consuming 20 kilowatts, and it was discovered that it is due to management inefficiency, then the job of the MD or the manager is at risk. So you need to be confidential and know who gives you the work and know how to report. Your idea is to help them and help yourself. So you must balance those two and make sure it is a win-win. Then you must be objective. Try and be objective. Don't say things that are unrealistic, right? Don't come into my house and tell me that I'm going to change all my ACs, I'm going to change all my. You can make it step by step. You can segment them, right? And you tell me I'm going to bring down my house and rebuild it and make sure that my windows are facing north or facing south or facing east, and that I should move on my roof because my roofs are dark roofs. That I need to have a bright or white roof so that they can reflect energy, so that my energy required for heating, for cooling will be minimized. I know those things, but they are not practicable. They are not being reasonable. They are not objective. Then the other form of objectivity is also in terms of you don't go to do energy auditing and then you are making recommendations of what to buy and then maybe telling them where to buy it or how to get it. It will lead to conflict of interest. So objectivity is something that everyone, you just have to do your work and get paid, and then you maybe do a follow-up to make sure things have been done. So there are other things you could do. They're in the slide. I'm not going to read them. You can go through them. So the audit organization too. This is how you organize it. the audit, the measurement, the field work, the analysis, and the reporting. You can go through them, you'll understand them. Now, for each of these measures, we have broken down what is required of you in each of them. The auditing step in the planning, remember the planning is the first step, right? What do? That is where you set the objective, you set the criteria, you set the scope of work. Then you set the boundary units, the boundaries for units installation and building that will be examined and everything. There are some things you don't go to transformer, close transformer or close some appliances because of safety. So this is where you identify them. You tell them what in that meeting, you tell them about the confidentiality you're going to take, or you also sign a non-disclosure agreement, formally or informally. So that the idea is that in some places where there are rivalries in terms of organizations, you don't let the other organization know what the organization is consuming. There are some things that goes with that. But when you read these slides, you're going to understand them. And also the time schedule need to be discussed in the meeting, that planning meeting. This is how long it's going to take. It's not going to be forever, and those who are going to do it have to go back to their work. Okay, so these are some of the things that the auditor have to inform the organization. You have to you need to tell them about the equipment that you need to do the energy auditing. So when they see these equipment, they will not sabotage it or whatever, or take it out of place. And you also have to discuss any potential area of interest, conflict of interest. This is for the planning meeting. Remember, they take out the startup meeting. You need to discuss, this is not ISO. You need to discuss areas of mutual interest, right? As I said, if the security man is getting money from supply of diesel, you need to know that there's conflict of interest there. And so you need to know how to break that. You need to reassure him that his work is not going to jeopardize or what have you. Also, we move to the next step. The next step is the data collection. After the planning, you have been given approval, you've gotten the inputs of the people, you've gotten their buy-in to do the audits, you've gotten their support, or maybe you have been mobilized. The next thing is data collection. Where do you collect data? You have to start from the raw materials. And what are the source? Production statistics, finished products, what raw materials are purchased. Because most things in life work on the basis of what they call law of continuity law, which means if I'm going to buy 5 bags of raw materials and I'm producing 10 bags of output, the day I buy 10 bags of raw material, I'm going to produce 20, right? Hungarian, what comes in is what goes out. So if I'm able to check what is going out, it might give me an idea by the time I plot it in the chart, I might be able to begin to find a correlation or variance or standard deviation, or whatever statistical parameter you want to use based on your level of knowledge of data management. You begin to see where it's making sense and where it's not making sense. Because the whole idea is a data, just like data say, data analysis. If you give a good person a data, he can begin to tell you what is happening with that data without even doing any analysis. You can begin to see the layouts and the outliers, right? Begin to see the outliers, begin to see the distortion data, and that will begin to make you your head to begin to think, to kind of begin to give you areas to focus on where there might be problem, right? Every diesel generator, if you look at the nameplates or the sheet file, we tell you the consumption per hour. We tell you how many liters it will consume per hour. Is there. So by the time I now see that it's consuming times 10 or times 5, I will know there's a problem. The next thing, data, is to look at the energy bills. Very important. And this energy bill could be utility bills, consumption reports, data from submitters, suppliers, water bills, and what have you. You have to collect those data. Then it could also, data collection can also come at the processes. Okay, what is the flow rate, the steam, steam temperature, the fuel, the electricity, okay, and then production pattern per center. Then what are the log sheets? What are they talking about? You need to look at. That's why outside this lesson, if there's any other area you need to improve your engineering is in place of data analysis. Data analysis. This is one area every engineer, and of course, Excel is a key tool for this, right? Then the next is the equipment itself. Look at the equipment. Look at the equipment. So equipment are faulty. So equipment are not working well. So equipment we need variable speed drive. Some we need sensors. Some we need thermostats. Some we need control, whatever. So that is where you also have to collect your data. There are some key important things you need to observe when you are collecting your data. Verify source of data. Know where the breakdown, if the energy breakdown is coming from metering or from calculation they've done. Check the time period covered, right? Check any irregular consumption pattern. Take note of it. Then check variation in raw materials and the fuel quality. The worst, if the fuel is bad, then most of it will go off as carbon, and so on and so forth. So there are a whole lot in here. That's why I said, let me say this, an auditor must be somebody who is smart and intelligent. Whether it's energy auditing or financial auditing or project auditing, an auditor must be smart upstairs. And being smart means you need to continuous learning beyond what this training is teaching you, please. Okay, so for the startup meetings, what do you need to do? I think I've said some of these things already. I'm not going to say them again, right? Everything here, when I say identify a person to liaise with the energy auditor, you know what I'm talking about. You must have somebody who will take you around, and not just take you around, tell you where to find what you're looking for. He says, ensure the cooperation of affected parties. I've all said that. He said, disclose any unusual condition, maintenance work or activities that will occur in the energy auditing. So that you don't want to keep equipment and somebody come and move it and so on. So let's read these things. They are just there. Okay, you move to the field work. During your field work, don't forget to take pictures. There are some things you will not see. If you glance through the pictures, it will warrant you to go back to the site. Kim has showed us about the temperature gun. That temperature gun, if you shoot gun in your electrical appliances, you can detect where there is too much resistance, and that will lead to losses. It's very possible. If you take a screen, but though I'm also aware, conscious that some people will not allow you to take pictures based on how sensitive their operations are. That is why the place of confidentiality comes in. Don't review what you have done with one organization to another one. No matter what, if you want to make a point, it is not too good. Okay, so this is still field work. You have to arrange the organization on the SHE. You have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. You have to talk about the proposed visit date and the schedule. And you have to tell them resources and the data they need to provide you in field work. So some of these things are what an energy auditor must agree with before you embark on field work. And these are also things you need to do. Just read them, you'll understand them. Please, I encourage us, 2 hours is not enough for us to say everything that we need to for this training. But we have made it such a way that the slides are well, have a lot of information, a lot of content. And okay, so let's continue. So the analysis, this is what you need to do in the analysis session, right? You must use transparent and technically appropriate calculation method. Please keep it simple and stupid. Just make it a KISS. Keep it simple, KISS. Keep it simple and stupid. Let it be that the primary school student will understand what you have done. People at the management level don't have time to read 200-page document. That's why executive summary is important. But beyond executive summary, forget about this voluminous thing, please, or you can put them in the appendix. Make sure your audit report is simple and direct to the point. Somebody say, how do we get the slides and other materials? It has been shared. I will share it again. It's in the cloud. I'll just share the cloud to you and then you download it. Okay. So I'm trying to rush so that we'll finish because today's introduction. I don't want to bore you. And besides, most of these things are self-explanatory. You can read them, you'll understand them. We're going to close the class. We have 15 minutes to go. So I'm closing the class in the next 5 minutes to allow us to ask questions. So gentlemen and ladies, I'm going to share this slide with us. And I will encourage us to read it and understand it. And when the video is ready, I will share the video with every one of us. Then finally, you go to the reporting. After you have done your reports, I'll give us templates before the end of the class, before the end of this training. You can also download hundreds of templates online. Yes. You have to press, the way you started the audits is the way you're going to end it. At the end of the auditing, you also call for a meeting. This time around, might not be all the people that came for the first meeting, but it is good for the top management staff and those who are going to implement your report to be in the meeting, where you present your report, you brief them, and if it's a detailed audit, you can do a presentation with charts and make it look beautiful, right? In other words, try and justify your pay. They must have paid you good money. You need to justify that you're worth paying that money by giving them a good report, giving them a good presentation, and I don't know which other thing you might put in there, but there must be a closure where you present a company, new energy company policy, present your findings, you present the energy saving opportunities, present the energy conservation measures you've seen, and then present environment and social impact assessments, depending on the level of audit you have done. And the other things you do, right? When we read this thing, we'll know what is required in your report. Very, very important, because your report is like your final output. So you have to make it look good and presentable. The next is measurement and instrumentation. The good of a thing, Nachima have done justice to that. So I won't go through it, but let us discuss it on our WhatsApp group. And I've included some of them. You just read them, you'll understand them. I promise you that. So these are some of the things Nyachima was mentioning, right? When it comes to motors and drives, you need a multi-power meter, you need a power analyzer, you need a strobo tachometer. When you're talking about illumination, which is lighting, you need a lux meter. You mentioned a lux meter, okay? Or you call it illuminance meter. When you're talking about airflow and compressed air systems, we're talking about air velocity meter, air leakage meter, and pressure meter. So depending on what aspect you are measuring, right, you know the appropriate equipment you need. Right? So this is it. The measurement and everything, the do's and the don'ts are all here. So these are also the typical areas of energy actions you need. So you can see there are 21 areas. So it depends on which area you are looking at, you are coming up with. So the industrial areas are on this side. Motors, the boilers, the finance, the pumps, the fans, the air compressors, the heat area. So these areas are areas that need more knowledge from you to become an energy auditor. But as we all know, we are all engineers. If you ask me to audit a motor system now, I'll use the day before, go to YouTube, go to internet, and I'll download everything about motor systems and read them and have them handy. If you're asking me about conveyor systems, I know just few. I don't know all, but I can go and read further and know them so that when I go to the factory, when I go to the industry, I won't make fool of myself. You might not be a water person, but you go and read about water system, water treatment plant, right? There is the primary sedimentation tank, where you have the aerators turning and churning and make sure that oxygen will enter the water. After then, you go to the sedimentation basin, where the thing will sediment. In that area, will not require a lot of energy. After the sedimentation area, it will go through a UV system. That UV system is where UV light, and UV light will be powered by the lighting system or the heating system. Then after the UV light, it will go back through the pump. So what type of pump do I need there? Is it a high heat lift pump? You start to analyze the treatment plant. With that, it will give you knowledge of where to focus on. I've just talked about diesel generators. The nameplate and the will tell you at what point to change what, at what point to replace what, at what point you know that for 1 liter, this is because of the capacity of the generator, this is what is expected to consume in 1 liter in 1 hour or 2 hours, and so on and so forth. So the next thing is measurement plan. You ask your questions. What would I like to measure? Why is it important to measure? And what have you? So the next thing is now to describe these equipment, what they are and what they are not. So these are just the description of them, what they do. This is it. So when you read this thing, it's self-explanatory. And I want to encourage you, if you have time, when you see one, Google more about them and get to know the different variants, which time will not permit us to know. So if you look at these infrared shots, all the red areas are telling you where there are heat losses. So those places we need some level of insulation. You can see the red areas, there's leakage. This could be a compressed air system. So you see that close to those valves, I will need to put maybe a kind of padding or so, or insulation. That will let you know. So here too, I could also see that there are some heat losses in some of the wires or in the bus bar. For that, I will know where I have problem and where I need to work on. So just go through this. I don't want to bore us with them. More of water. This one more like for water, changing water hardness, pH meter, dissolved solid meters, and all this. This is for people who are doing water treatment plant auditing. So this material is just, then finally, too much, reporting. It says provide evidence of profitability with simple calculation. Summarize results for decision makers. That's too much stories. So here we teach you about reporting. What does your reporting, what does the table of content look like? What to look out for each of the sessions. When it comes to the executive summary, what do you do? When it comes to EE measures, what do you do? When you come to these different areas, you need to identify what needs to be done, and so on and so forth. Then finally, you can also implement use of Excel, all right, which we're going to give you some templates so that if it's a repetitive task, it will be easy for you to do. Okay, this is the cash flow analysis. This will be for the last day. We'll do this. This is sensitivity analysis, what needs to be done, and so on and so forth. So thank you for your attention. My apology, I need to rush through this training because we have only 2 minutes to close the class. We want to make it such a way that everybody will be aware that we'll be spending 2 hours, so that after 2 hours, you are at liberty to go and do other things because it's weekend. So thank you so much. The video will be saved and will be shared, and any other discussion